What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Mac here with another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. And I just had to come up here and give my thoughts on something that has been weighing me down. It is very, very likely, it is extremely likely that we see Jayson Tatum take the court in a meaningful capacity before we get to see Max Strus make his season debut, which is absolutely insane to me. Now, when you look at the intricacies of this, when you look at like the general timelines and whatnot, I can understand why Tatum is coming back before Strus because Strus's injury is extremely tricky. It carries with it a ton of risk if you try and push it and come back too early. And if you opt to get surgery, that complicates things even further. So I can understand it to a degree. But just objectively speaking, it is absolutely insane to me that we are going to likely see Tatum take the floor before we get to see Strus. I mean, seriously, we saw what happened to him. We know that it was heading into the offseason. I think the large portion of the NBA fan base in general, even if you weren't a Celtics fan, believe that we're not going to see Tatum this year. This is going to be somewhat of a gap year for the Boston Celtics. And it has been anything but that, right? Now, obviously, the Boston Celtics have had a phenomenal season. They have been led by Jaylen Brown in an MVP caliber season. This has been, just objectively speaking, a phenomenal season for the Boston Celtics. I hate to say that. That feels like poison coming out off of my lips. But they're the second seed in the Eastern Conference at 41-21 as of recording this. And I have nothing but respect for the way that they've been able to balance things out since Tatum has gone down. I mean, the crazy thing is, it wasn't just the Tatum injury that made this feel like it was going to be a gap year for them, right? There was a lot of moves, a lot of transition this past offseason for the Boston Celtics. They lost Al Horford, Luke Cornett. They lost Kristaps Porzingis, obviously. Well, not really lost. They traded him, right? Either way, you understand what I'm trying to say. Drew Holiday, there's a lot of names that are no longer associated with the Boston Celtics that had been such a huge portion of their championship run and a phenomenal last couple of years for them. All of the names I mentioned, Tatum obviously at the forefront of that. And with that injury, I think a lot of people thought that this was going to be just a down year for them where they were just really fighting to stay relevant in the Eastern Conference playoff picture. I myself had them as a top 6 team. I thought they would make the playoffs, but I didn't think that they would end up being a real contender without Tatum, without all of these other pieces. And that's exactly what they have been. As I mentioned, Brown has legitimately been an MVP caliber player this year. I mean, you could always see it trending that way, but sometimes all you really need is an opportunity. If you're that second option, if you're that Robin to the Batman, whoever it is, right? Sometimes all you really need is a real opportunity to showcase that you can function as a number one on a championship type of team, a contending team. And that's exactly what Jaylen Brown has done this year in the absence of Jayson Tatum. He has literally taken things over there, and he's forced a lot of tough conversations. I think a lot of people are still obviously of the belief that Jayson Tatum is the superior player. He is their best player. I still think that's the case, but you can really make it on a real argument that Jaylen Brown might have exceeded him. I'm not there. Let me clarify. I'm not there, but I can understand why people might believe that Jaylen Brown is the number one. He does have the finals MVP, right? But again, that ignores a lot of context too. But this season, Brown is averaging 28.9 points, 7.2 rebounds, if I'm not mistaken, and 5 assists while shooting 48% from the floor, including 34.8% from three-point distance. He is having a phenomenal season in his own right. So all credit where it's due in regards to Brown. But they have done all of this. They have won 40-plus games without Jayson Tatum. And you're adding Tatum back into the mix for a team that is the second seed. One has to believe that potentially could make them the favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference ahead of teams like Cleveland, ahead of teams like Detroit, who is the current number one seed in the East right now, looking like paper champs because of some of the injuries that have occurred in the Eastern Conference. Lo and behold, though, this could make them the true favorite to come out of the East if, and this is the huge if, because there's always a if, there's always a caveat. If Jayson Tatum comes back and he looks like 75 to 80% of himself, it's going to take him some time to ramp back up. But I think that he has enough time between now and the end of the regular season and the start of playoffs, where he could get back into basketball shape, get back into game shape by playing his way there. We have seen it happen throughout the course of NBA history, and that could simply be the case here with Tatum as he gets to potentially come back on Friday night, tomorrow, right? Against the Dallas Mavericks, if I'm not mistaken. That's a matchup that I think they're probably going to be raring to get him out there for. And immediately following that, that means that the Cleveland Cavaliers could potentially see him on Sunday. Now, obviously, it's not a back-to-back situation. It's not you're not playing on Friday and Saturday or anything like that. There is a day in between. So it is highly likely that if Tatum does make his debut tomorrow, that he does suit up on Sunday versus the Cavaliers. That could be a good or a bad thing for both of these teams. Maybe Tatum comes back and he looks extremely rusty. I think that would probably be closer to what happens than him looking like he is shot out of a cannon immediately. But either way, it's crazy to see Tatum make his potential debut after what he has gone through to get here. This man has been working extremely hard. He has made he has worked extremely hard to get back on the court, right? That's that's insane that after 10 months, just been 10 months of like the calendar year after he had that surgery to repair the ruptured Achilles tendon, that he has made his way back to potentially make his season debut before the season even ends. Again, that's a phenomenal story within its own right. To see Boston get to where they are, to see them challenge for Eastern Conference supremacy without Tatum, and then potentially getting him back, that could potentially make them the favorites to come out of the East, again, ahead of some of the teams that I already mentioned. All of that said, because this is not just about Tatum. To me, it's it is an indictment, I think, on worth. No, that's probably the wrong word. I don't want to go with that. Let me clarify. Jayson Tatum has worked extremely hard to get back out on the court. Not everybody's the same. Not everybody's body is the same. Some guys take a little longer to come back. I would not have blamed Jayson Tatum at all if he would have said, you know what, this is going to be a year of recovery for me. I'm not playing this year. I'm going to try and elect to take let no opportunities for re-injury to occur. I'm just going to sit this season out, work on my craft once I can get back into basketball activities, et cetera, et cetera. But obviously he's not doing that. And so I look at our situation here with Max Strus. It's a little different. Again, Strus's injury is not even of the same accord, not of the same volition because of how he injured it in the time frame of which he injured it. It's not exactly like it happened during the playoffs last year. It happened in the off season. And so you look at the update, the last update that we were given on March 3rd, just a couple of days ago. Cavaliers guard forward Max Strus continues his recovery following off-season surgery to repair a Jones fracture in his left foot. If you're familiar with Jones fractures, you know they are very tricky things. And they're things that honestly are prone to re-injury if you are not extremely judicious with your movements and you're not careful. And sometimes there's luck associated with it as well. You can do everything right and still have bad luck and have a re-injury occur and then have to get surgery or something like that. But apparently, he is still progressing and the healing process is going well, but it has taken so long for us to get to this point because he did have that setback. And obviously the surgery came much later than Tatum's. So obviously the time frames here are a little different. It's not exactly fair to say, oh, well, Jayson is coming back and Max isn't doing all he can. I don't think that's fair because obviously these are two different injuries. Both of them really, really tricky. Both of them debilitating, but at the same time, the recoveries are a lot different. And so I hope to see Strus soon. I think that we will by the wording of that last status update. It sounds like we will see him before the end of the year, but it amazes me that Jayson Tatum is making his way back to the court before we get to see Strus. It's crazy, right? They go on to say in that update that he's going to work with the charge and he's going to work with the Cavs and he'll continue his rehab and conditioning under the supervision of the medical and performance staff. But it's insane to me that Tatum has managed to work his way back to this point. It's just crazy. Right. You see guys like Tyrese Halliburton and Strus and you got Kyrie. And there's a lot of names out there that you could throw out there that he is making his his return on the court before, right? And so I I hope to see Max soon, but I have nothing but admiration for a guy like Tatum that will put his body in harm's way because this is certainly taking a chance coming back just 10 months after the surgery occurred and the ruptured Achilles occurred. It's crazy though. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on it. So I'll hop into the chat here real quick before I head out. But I just I can't even fathom that. James Dungeon says he'll be hot garbage, no worries. I mean, he couldn't at the same time. You never quite know. Cavalier says picked up Tatum in fantasy a month ago. I mean, that could be a good decision depending upon how far the Celtics go into the playoffs. But again, I didn't think they would get to this point. Like I thought that they would be a playoff team. Don't get me wrong. But after the moves they made, right? They got rid of Drew Holiday. They got rid of KP. Al Horford's not with them anymore. The Tatum injury and a number of other small transitions. I didn't think that they would be a top 3 seed in the East, let alone competing potentially by the time that Tatum came back or was ready to come back. And so all credit where it's due. And that probably is going to be a good pickup for you given time. Sage's Cold Heart says, I have absolutely no idea how he recovered so quickly. I think there is a big risk with his return. Maybe he has mutant healing factor like Deadpool or Wolverine or any other number of Marvel characters or DC, whatever you want to go with. But yeah, his body seems to have recovered really, really quickly. We've seen videos over the last couple of months of him putting in work, and I do not question this dude's work ethic one bit because he has done everything that he needed to do to get back out there, and it looks like he'll be back out there tomorrow against the Dallas Mavericks. So all credit where it's due. I do think that he obviously will be on a minutes restriction. I'm not quite sure what that looks like. Maybe they hold him to 15, 20 minutes. All the reporting in the world couldn't really tell you what will actually happen because I'm sure that there'll be reports, if there are not already reports out there about how much they're going to limit him to. And this goes to answer that question right there. I'm not sure. I think maybe 20 minutes, something along that line. Black Ernie says it's a mistake. He and the organization will regret this. Just on a pure basketball level, I hope not. For the game of basketball to see any of its star level players, really any player that makes an impact the way that he does, to see anybody injured like that, it's bad for the game of basketball. So hopefully that does not end up being the case. Coach CJ says Tatum will be fine. Got to take it easy with minutes restrictions, though. Exactly. I mean, we have seen this happen time and time again with guys returning late in this season. Hopefully he's able to get his legs back under him, objectively speaking, just hoping that if the Cavaliers do meet this team in the playoffs, that he struggles. I'm not praying for an injury like that. I'm not that kind of guy, but I hope he struggles. Pee Wee Burnt Pizza says, why are Celtics wanting to risk their franchise player? Probably because of where they are, right? If the Celtics were like, I don't know, 6th or 7th in the East, or if they were in playing territory, you could easily make a case for Tatum just saying, you know what, I'm going to shut it down for this season. I'm not going to attempt to make a comeback. But these dudes are second in the East. They won 41 games without him, without all these other pieces. They're honestly a bad matchup for a lot of teams in the East, maybe in the NBA in general. Honestly, if I was looking at the potential playoff opponents right now, I would say that the Boston Celtics scare me infinitely more than the Detroit Pistons do in a playoff series. They've kind of had Cleveland's number over the years. So, I mean, you add Tatum back into that, that could be disastrous for a lot of teams. Basketball Gunner says, "What's good, Mac? If you can really come back from that this soon, that will be massive for Achilles injuries going forward." It could, but again, injuries are individual, right? They're all a little different, and the way that everybody's body reacts to said injuries and recovery is different as well. But this is really just objectively speaking, if he does make his debut on Friday, and we know that even if he doesn't, he'll be back within the next few games. That's just excellent for the game of basketball, and then you have to be happy for him to be able to get back out there. Let's see here. I am worthy says, I can't stand the Celtics, not a Tatum, not a Tatum either. Ask Katie about that. Ask Clay about that. Yeah, I mean, it could be bad. It truly could, but it could also not spell disaster. It could be a potentially good thing for the Celtics as well. They feel like they're close to competing for another title this year. Coach EJ says, at least he's coming back before playoffs. They can still shut him down if he doesn't look good in NBA game speed. This is a good point. If he can't get himself back into playing shape, if he doesn't look like he is able to handle the rigors of the game, because there's no amount of practicing, there's no amount of 5-on-5 scrimmages you can do that will get you ready for in-game action, let alone playoff basketball. So if he doesn't look right, yeah, they can just shut him down. Or if they're fearful of him suffering a re-injury or he just doesn't look like himself, then yeah, you have that time to shut him down. You also have the time to potentially ramp him up, which is a scary thought for the second seed in the East. We'll end up seeing. Sage's Go Hard says, it's not a thing to generalize for Achilles. It's him. He responded very well to treatment. Agreed. Absolutely. I think that you look at how everybody responds to various injuries, like Evan Mobley, for instance. Evan Mobley has routinely come back earlier from injuries that some guys might have taken a week or 2 weeks longer to come back from. He's another one of these guys that apparently is a quick healer, but happy for Tatum. I'm hoping that he doesn't get re-injured. I'm also hoping that if the Cavaliers have to play the Boston Celtics in the playoffs, that he doesn't go off or anything like that, because that'll be an even tougher matchup. But above all else, I just want to see Max Strus back out there. I truly do. And I think that we will soon. I'm not sure what the role will be, but I do have a lot of faith that Kenny Atkinson will carve out 15 to 20 minutes per game for him to get his legs back under himself, even if that occurs at the inopportune times for the Cavaliers down the stretch run. But I assume he'll be back within the next 2 to 3 weeks. We'll end up seeing what happens with him. But I'm still floored that we're seeing Tatum come back before we have seen Max Strus, before we have seen Kyrie Irving, before we are seeing Tyrese Halliburton and a number of other players that suffered massive injuries last year and then in the offseason in the case of Max. But it's incredible. It is truly, truly incredible. Mr. Moss 08 says, don't put any faith in Harden. I'm excited to see Jayson come back. Boston scary team with the addition of new big men. You have guest on, bro. I cover basketball. Yeah, I do. I have guest on from time to time. I wouldn't have any problem having somebody from the opposing fan base, talk basketball. If you're Celtics, if you cover them, love to have you on at some point. Yeah, Namias Keita, he's been phenomenal this year. He has taken advantage of every opportunity that has been extended to him. I actually pointed him out on social media a couple of days ago for his work on the defensive side of the basketball, right? He has been an interior rim presence out there in terms of the interior D. And I can't really, objectively speaking, be happy for guys like that when the opportunity knocks, you take advantage of that. To me, I think you always got to be happy to celebrate a guy's success when you get that true opportunity to showcase that you're more valuable than a lot of people think that you potentially are. And so for Namias Keita, that's phenomenal to see what he has been doing over there. This season that Jaylen Brown is having, that has been a great sight to see, objectively speaking. I'm not a fan of the Celtics at all, but it's hard to watch how it's hard not to be happy for them if you've seen the types of outlooks that people were having for them prior to the season beginning, because they have exceeded all expectations. You can make an argument that they have overachieved. You can make any number of arguments that you want. But at the end of the day, the reality is that the Boston Celtics, Sans Jayson Tatum, have been great. They have won more games than Cleveland. They have won more games than all but one team in the Eastern Conference. And you add in a very high level player, a top 10 player in Jayson Tatum back into the equation, even if he's not 100%. That's a scary thought for a lot of teams around the NBA, because he'll have time to ramp up as we're still in early March. But time will tell. I'm just hoping we see Max back soon. That's really what I want to see from a Cleveland standpoint, because I think this team, they could still use a lot of what he brings to the table. I know that with the size issues that they have, it's not yet another undersized player. But at the end of the day, I think the chemistry that he has developed with Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley, and just being a general connector out there, being able to facilitate a little bit. He's a volume shooter, underrated rebounder. Is not as bad as a defender as people like to say he is. But to me, I think Max could still add so much to the table. I'm just, again, just floored that we're seeing Tatum before Max. I just had to get my thoughts on that. I had to get that off my chest. But if you're still here by chance, do your boy a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to this Cavalier podcast if you're not yet a subscriber. Do the same for Positive Hooper. I'll probably release a video about this later on today. If you want to support the show in a small but helpful way, consider becoming a member over on Patreon. You can do so on YouTube as well for as low as $1. But even if you don't, your boy will still be here because I love this team. And I know y'all do too. Go Cavs.